What if the greatest tragedy of your life wasn't that you will die one day, but that the person who was supposed to live never had the chance to exist? Don't answer too quickly. The version of you preparing a response may already be the product of forces that began shaping your mind long before you became aware of yourself. Long before you spoke your first word, someone had already written the first lines of your identity. By the time you learned your own name, you had already inherited a morality you never chose, fears that were never yours, ambitions borrowed from strangers, and a definition of success carefully crafted to keep you moving in directions that served everyone except yourself. You call this growing up. Georges Palante would have called it surrender. Every compliment became a leash, every punishment became a map, every expectation carved away another possibility until what remained felt natural, simply because you had forgotten what it meant to resist. The tragedy is not that society lied to you. The tragedy is that it taught you to speak with its voice until you mistook it for your own. You believe your desires belong to you. Yet how many of them would survive if no one were watching? How many of your convictions would remain standing if they had never been rewarded with approval? Strip away your education, your status, your duties, your patriotism, your religion, your reputation. What remains? Perhaps nothing. That is the thought most people spend their entire lives trying to outrun. Civilizations celebrate conformity because genuine individuality is dangerous. An authentic human being cannot be predicted, classified, or comfortably absorbed into the machinery of society. Therefore, the machinery performs its oldest function. It does not imprison the body. It reshapes the soul until obedience feels like freedom and imitation feels like identity. Then comes the realization that Palante forces upon us with merciless clarity. Perhaps you are not searching for your true self. Perhaps you are mourning someone you never had the opportunity to become. Not because you lacked courage, not because you made the wrong choices, rather because the choices were arranged before you were capable of choosing at all. This is not a story about self-discovery. It is the autopsy of a life that was extinguished before it could begin. And the most disturbing part is this. You may be listening to these words, hoping to find yourself, only to discover there was never anyone there to find. No prison has ever been as efficient as a nursery. The world likes to imagine childhood as the purest stage of life, a paradise untouched by corruption. Georges Palante saw something far darker. Childhood is where society begins its longest conquest, not through chains or threats, but through repetition, affection, approval, and fear. Before a child can defend an identity is assigned. Before judgment exists, judgment is installed. The first violence inflicted upon you was not against your body. It was against your possibility. Every command disguised itself as love. Every reward taught dependence. Every punishment narrowed the horizon of what was acceptable to think, to feel, to become. Little by little, spontaneity was treated like a defect waiting to be corrected. Curiosity became distraction. Defiance became disrespect. Solitude became abnormal. Obedience became virtue. None of this required cruelty. It required normality. That is what makes it so devastating. Society does not need to destroy exceptional individuals after they are formed. It is far more effective to prevent them from forming at all. Like a tree forced to grow inside an iron mold, the child eventually adapts to the shape imposed upon it. Years later, the twisted trunk is mistaken for its natural form. Palante believed the conflict between the individual and society is not an unfortunate accident. It is the price every civilization demands for its own survival. A truly independent mind introduces uncertainty, whereas society survives by producing predictability. Every generation inherits the same invisible contract. Surrender your uniqueness, and you will be accepted. The child eventually learns this bargain. not consciously, existentially. One day, the laughter becomes restraint. Wonder becomes caution. Authentic impulses become carefully edited performances designed for the eyes of others. People say the child grew up. The truth is far more tragic. The child did not grow. The child disappeared. The conquest is complete when the conqueror is no longer needed. Society does not stand beside you every morning, reminding you how to behave. It doesn't have to. By the time adulthood arrives, its commands have settled beneath your thoughts, speaking with your own voice. What once came from parents, teachers, traditions, and institutions now feels like conscience. You no longer follow orders. You are the order. That is the masterpiece George Palante forces us to confront. The most enduring chains are forged from beliefs mistaken for our own. How many times have you felt guilty without committing a crime? Ashamed without understanding why? Afraid of disappointing people whose approval adds nothing to your existence? These emotions rarely emerge from nature. They are inherited. Layer after layer, society buries its commandments so deeply inside the individual that they become indistinguishable from identity itself. Modern psychology reaches an unsettling conclusion that echoes Palante's intuition. Solomon Asch revealed how easily people abandon obvious truths to agree with a crowd. Stanley Milgram demonstrated that ordinary individuals will obey authority even when it violates their conscience. Decades of research on socialization and internalized norms point toward the same disturbing reality. External control eventually becomes self-control. The guard leaves the prison because the prisoner has learned to patrol the cell alone. This is why rebellion is so rare. Most people are not fighting against oppression. They are protecting it. Every moment of self-censorship, every instinct hidden to avoid rejection, every opinion softened to preserve acceptance, strengthens a structure that no longer requires force. It survives through habit, through reflex, through the unbearable fear of standing alone before the world without borrowed certainties. You call it maturity. Palante would call it surrender disguised as character. And perhaps the greatest triumph of society is not that it taught you what to think. It is that it convinced you the voice inside your head was always yours. The perfect prison is the one where the prisoner believes every thought is an act of freedom. There is a place where billions have been buried without a funeral. No crosses mark the ground. No names are carved into stone. No grieving families gather to mourn. Yet it is the largest cemetery humanity has ever created. It is filled with lives that never reached existence. Not people, possibilities. Every fear that silenced conviction buried another future. Every compromise made for acceptance erased a path that will never be walked. Every gift abandoned for security became another grave with no witness left to remember what was lost. This is the tragedy Palante leaves us staring into. The greatest losses cannot be counted because they never entered history. Think of the painter who stopped painting because survival demanded obedience instead of beauty. Think of the scientist who traded curiosity for certainty and spent decades repeating work that left no trace on his soul. Think of the woman who devoted every year of her life to becoming everything others expected, only to realize that no one had ever asked what she desired. Think of the old man who spent 40 years climbing a ladder, reaching the top only to discover it had been leaning against the wrong wall from the beginning. These are not exceptional stories. They are ordinary. That is precisely what makes them unbearable. The world measures success by visible achievements, yet the deepest catastrophes leave nothing to measure. No statistic records the novel that remained unwritten, the discovery that remained unmade, the love never confessed, the courage forever postponed. History remembers what happened. It has no language for everything that was prevented from happening. Perhaps this is why regret becomes heavier with age. Time does not merely reveal what we have done. It exposes everything we will never have the chance to become. In the end, death is not humanity's greatest executioner. For countless people, possibility died decades earlier. The body simply arrived later to claim what had already been lost. By now, something far more disturbing begins to emerge. Perhaps society never intended to preserve you in the first place. Its true ambition was to make sure you could be replaced. Georges Palante understood that civilizations do not thrive because they produce extraordinary individuals. They endure because they transform singular human beings into interchangeable parts. The less unique you become, the easier you are to organize, predict, and replace. Originality introduces uncertainty. Uniformity guarantees stability. That is why society rarely asks who you are. It asks what you do. A profession replaces a personality. A passport replaces a history. A salary replaces a measure of worth. A voting card replaces political thought. A consumer profile replaces desire. Eventually, the human being disappears beneath an inventory of functions until existence resembles a machine whose components have forgotten they were once alive. History offers the same lesson again and again. Empires marched because millions accepted becoming soldiers instead of selves. Factories expanded because workers learned to value productivity above identity. Bureaucracies multiplied because names could be exchanged for numbers without slowing the system. Every durable structure has depended on the same principle. Remove the individual, preserve the function. Palante saw the crowd not as a gathering of free minds, but as the place where difference gradually dissolves. The collective rewards resemblance and punishes distinction, not always through violence, although more often through isolation, ridicule, and indifference. Most people eventually surrender, not because they are convinced, but because loneliness feels heavier than conformity. This is the final irony. The more perfectly you adapt, the less necessary you become. Your replacement does not need your memories, your suffering, or your dreams. It only needs your role. And if another face could wake tomorrow, perform every task you perform, repeat every habit you repeat, and leave the world unchanged, how much of you ever truly existed? Every tragedy reaches a moment when nothing can be undone. This is that moment. Most people believe the greatest loss in life is failing to achieve their dreams. Georges Palante points toward something far more devastating. Before a dream can be abandoned, there must first be someone capable of dreaming it. Yet what if that person vanished long before memory could preserve them? What if your deepest absence is not something you remember losing, but someone you never had the opportunity to become? Time is unlike any other thief. It never returns to admire what it has stolen. Every passing year hardens the shape of a life already molded by compromises, expectations, and borrowed convictions. Eventually, habit becomes indistinguishable from identity. The mask fuses with the face. The role survives long after the actor has disappeared. There comes an age when people begin asking whether they lived well. Palante would ask a far crueler question. Did they ever truly live at all? No answer can recover the years surrendered to a self that never belonged to them. No revelation can resurrect possibilities erased before they acquired a name. The life that might have unfolded under different conditions has vanished beyond imagination itself. It exists nowhere except as an absence, impossible to measure precisely because it never entered reality. This is why regret grows heavier instead of lighter. It is not mourning the past. It is mourning an entire existence that history refused to allow. There is no redemption hidden here. No promise that authenticity can still be reclaimed. No comforting belief that the true self has patiently waited beneath the surface all along. Perhaps there is nothing waiting. Perhaps the only person who could have answered the question, "Who am I?" was extinguished before consciousness ever learned to ask it. And that leaves us with the most unbearable thought of all. You fear death because you believe there is still a life left to lose. Georges Palante would suggest a darker possibility. The only life that truly belonged to you may have been destroyed long before you realized it had ever existed. If this video gave words to thoughts you've carried for years, consider supporting the channel. Becoming a member gives you access to more than 100 exclusive videos exploring philosophy, psychology, and the darkest questions about human existence. If you'd rather make a one-time contribution, you can also use Super Thanks. That said, never feel obligated. Simply watching, subscribing, leaving a comment, and sharing these videos already helps this channel grow more than you might imagine. Thank you for being part of this journey.